Faux fire is starting to show signs of lycanthropy. There's trouble with the lizardmen.
I would like to show you the hospitality of the dwarves.
They're back on the road. They get down to Kilmarnock, Marnock's kill, Marnock's self. My name is Zeno. And warmth begins to suffuse you. The healing is accomplished. I have for you a task. A local farmer has gone missing. They take the road out of Kilmarnock. The houses in this area are old roundhouses, and there's no one around.
Weird happenings in that house, though. Weird happenings.
The door is hanging slightly ajar. They see the chickens and they want to feed them. It looks as if an enormous fight had happened here. Things aren't looking good for Robert. Who did this? There was another building on the grounds, incidentally. Behind the roundhouse was a barn. Now, it was built in the more modern, squared-off fashion. It appears to have a loft over the top for hay, and in the bottom, well, they discover as they go there. They leave the house, and they go out to examine the barn. Now, the scale on this map is 1 square equals 1 foot. The entrance to the barn is a wide opening. There's no actual door to close it. As they enter, they discover on either side stacks of straw and hay, food and bedding for the animals. Further in, there are stalls. The stalls do have gates on them. The first stall they find seems to be designed for a horse, and the door to it is opened. They peer inside and look in there. I think Touchberry and Bob Johnny go to check that one out. Just around the middle of the barn, there is a loft over their head. When they first came in, it was open all the way to the roof line, but as they get further in, there's a loft there, and they can see, straw and hay sort of spilling over the edge of it, so clearly it's just more of the same kept aloft. So they go to the back to examine what's back there. In the back, they find a pen which has all the hallmarks of having been a pig pen. It's a lower fence and very sturdily built because pigs really will shove and push to get out. They like to escape. But the door to this is also open. There is blood everywhere in here, and pieces of what probably were pigs at one point. In the other corner is another stall for horse or cow. In there they find a pile of bedding in the corner, and sleeping on that bedding, a tall, rangy creature with grayish-green skin and long, stringy black hair. At the ends of each hand, long, cruel claws, impossibly long, dagger-like claws. It's a troll. Now, they have not indicated that they're trying to be quiet. They've given no indication of stealth. And so, as they move to this back corner of the barn, he begins to stir. His cruel black eyes pop open with malice in them, and he leaps with a screech, flailing with his claws. Battle on! We roll for initiative, and I haven't the foggiest idea who wins it. I can't remember what order anyone went in, but the fight is fierce. I mean, this is a troll. Trolls are tough. They're rubbery skin and long reach on them. And look at the geography of the fight. 2 of them have come in here. Fleetwood and Bob Johnny have actually entered into the stall. The others are outside. They can't reach it. They can't get in. And that includes the 2 characters with the highest hit points. Oh well. They begin a fight, and even Bob Johnny's having trouble because swinging that enormous axe in this space, it's not that big, right? So he's got to be careful not to slam into Fleetwood. But they begin the fight, and they're doing some damage. The troll hits them and does damage as well. It's a back and forth, and it's a pretty pitched battle. Now, Touchberry and Faux Fire unsling their bows and start trying to fire arrows in. Again, being careful not to hit Fleetwood or Bob Johnny as they do, to send arrows through the middle. And they're beginning to win the fight. We've got 4-on-1, and there's some pretty tough characters. And so the fight is going in the party's favor. They're pushing the troll back. He's starting to look desperate when Bob Johnny cleaves off one of his arms. I don't normally go for, specific damage and try to cut off, that kind of stuff. But I really wanted to explore one of the troll's sort of properties, some of the powers the troll has. So I said, on one of the blows, when Bob Johnny rolled a particularly high hit, he did 7 or 8 points of damage or something. I said your axe swings through, and as it makes connection with the creature's arm, it is severed and falls to the ground with a sickening thud. Okay, now Bob Johnny's really happy about that. Yeah, all right, So now the troll is down attacks. Instead of 2 attacks per round, he just gets 1 because he doesn't have that arm. This is about 4 rounds of combat in, and they're starting to triumph early. They're starting to say, yeah, we bad, we got him, we bad. When there are 2 thuds behind Faux-Fire and Touchberry. They whirl around to see 2 more trolls. They'd been sleeping up in the loft, and they dropped down. The sound of the combat wakened them, and they have dropped down behind, and they launch the attack as well. Now the party is stuck in the middle of 3 trolls. Now the one is nearly dead, and Fleetwood decides to keep focusing on that one. He's going to keep attacking that one. Bob Johnny now turns, and realizing he has no room to attack because Fleetwood and Faux-Fire and Touchberry are right in front of him, he launches a magic missile right between them, sinks into one of the trolls, it takes damage, right, and the combat continues. Now, one of the things about trolls, the power I talked about earlier, is that they regenerate hit points. After a certain number of rounds, I forget what it is, but after a certain number of rounds, I think it's 3 rounds after they take the damage, they begin healing it. Unless the damage was done with fire or magic. Okay? Now they don't know this, though. They don't know this about trolls. And so the combat continues, and eventually Fleetwood kills the one in the corner, the first one that they started to fight. It dies. What he doesn't notice, as it goes down, is that the arm is beginning to crawl its way back over to the corpse. Fleetwood turns his attention and joins the fight against the other 2. Now, this is not going so well. Faux-Fire in particular is having a hard time. She's got almost no armor class, right? She's a thief, so it's a 7 armor class. She's backed against the pigsty. Touchberry's doing his best against the other troll, and he's actually coming out pretty good. Touchberry is pretty tough. And Bob Johnny joins. Initially, he joins Touchberry because it was the closer of the 2, but at this point he shifts and he turns over to help Faux-Fire out, and he begins fighting that one. Fleetwood also has a bow and arrow, and again, because the geography of it is so constrained, there's so many things in the way, he gets out his bow and starts trying to take shots at the one that Touchberry's fighting. The advantage here being Touchberry is small, and so you can shoot over him. Troll tall, halfling small, you can shoot over him. The other advantage that Touchberry is having is that because a troll is larger than human size, he gets a -1 on his attacks against Touchberry, because Touchberry is a halfling that's really small. Anyway, as they are fighting these 2, there's a sound from behind, a sort of groaning, moaning growl. And they turn to see that troll rising up. We just killed him! I'm sure he was dead! Then they remember, and I don't know, it's probably my eldest, who plays Fleetwood. He has read every player's manual there is, and so he must now remember, trolls, fire, we have to burn them. At this point, something beautiful happens. Fire, Fleetwood says, fire, we need to use fire against them. And Bob Johnny remembers, Brosingas. And so as he swings the axe for his next attack, he hollers out at the top of his lungs, Brosingas! And the axe head lights up in flame, an arc of fire swinging with the axe. It is a magic axe. Of course, it's a powerful axe +1, but if you say the name Brosingas as you swing it, the head of the axe bursts into flames, and it does an extra 1d4 of damage, of fire damage. Precisely what they need against trolls. The effect will last for 10 rounds, and then it cannot be done again that day. It can be done once a day, and it lasts 10 rounds of combat. So it's a limited time thing. They can't just keep using it, but he gets 10 rounds of combat with fire, which is going to be enough for most fights. Anyway, he employs it on this one, and it is employed to good effect. He does hit, and he rolls for damage. I think he rolls like a 6 or a 7. It was a relatively high roll on a 1d8 for the axe itself, plus the 1, and then I say, now roll a 1d4. So he adds the additional damage from the fire. The troll is startled. Now, he didn't expect this, right? This was not in the cards. This wasn't supposed to happen. Now, Faux-Fire, seeing this, realizes that her weapons aren't going to do any good. And they may knock him down, but he's going to get right back up again. But she does have flasks of oil. So she pulls one of those out for her attack and throws it at the troll. The first one misses, but the next round she takes her second vial of oil, throws it, hits the troll, and it goes pouring down him. Now in the meantime, Bob Johnny had swung and missed, but this time he swings again and hits. And with the flaming axe head, makes the strike, does the damage of the axe, plus its bonus, plus the fire damage, and the oil lights on fire. Floop! And it lights the straw on fire. Oops. Okay, so now they've got a burning troll who's almost dead, and a pile of burning straw. The troll is in the midst of the straw. They had pushed him back kind of into that pile of straw, and so he started to take damage from that. He's nearly dead. The one back in the corner, meanwhile, Fleetwood has again battled down, because as it came back, it still didn't have many hit points. Fleetwood has battled it back down to dead, and once it is dead, he throws one of his flasks of oil on it and burns it. And I'm saying, okay, that's going to finish it. It won't come back. This one that's burning isn't going to come back. What are you going to do about the fire that is now raging in the barn? Well, they can't deal with that right now because they've got another troll. That troll boots it, runs out of the barn. He sees his companions dead, he sees the barn on fire, he's afraid, he's low in hit points, he boots it, he just runs. Now, the characters decide not to pursue him right away. A bit of a mistake, I think? Yeah, bit of a mistake. Partly because they are low in hit points as well. Touchberry is in bad shape, Bowfire is in bad shape, Fleetwood is in bad shape. The only one who has come through this relatively unscathed is Bob Johnny. He's still doing just fine. He's been hit once or twice, but nothing serious. The damage rolls were not that bad, and he's got that armor, right? He's got the plate mail armor, so he doesn't get hit as often. Anyhow, they decide to stay there and put out the fire. So, all right, how are you going to manage that? You've got two of them burning now, because you've got another troll in the corner still on fire, and now you've got this straw fire here, and the straw in the back are burning. So I tell them it's early enough for the one in the back corner. You could probably, by turning over the straw and stomping on it and depriving it of air, you can get that one. But the one in the front, eek. There is a trough for the animals outside of the barn. Out in the farmyard, there was a big trough of water. And the trolls have drank out of it, but they can't consume an entire trough of water. So two of them, I think it's Bob Johnny and Bowfire, run out, pick up either end of it, and haul it back in and tip it on the fire, which is a nice tidy blaze at this point. It knocks it down far enough that they are then able to smother it the rest of the way out. So they've got that taken care of. Now, where did that troll go? Did he run into the town? Did he run off into the wherever? Where is he? And they begin to look around. Now, I should have mentioned it was late day when they got here, and so by the time this fight is happening, it is early evening. The sun is sufficiently low. It's cloudy enough that trolls aren't having any trouble out here. So where the thing has gone is an open question. It could go anywhere. They decide to check the house in case it just went for shelter close by, and they find it. The first room, nothing, remains a mess, but they can hear some banging and scuffling happening from the back. So they go again through that curtain, and there's the troll, hunched up in the corner, panting, fear in his eyes. But he sees his pursuers coming, and he launches into the attack, and the fight is on there in the back room here. Now, Fleetwood suddenly remembers Web. Like, sometimes they forget that they have the spells, right? Sometimes they just forget the whole spell thing, and they just go in with swords. Yeah, okay. Fleetwood remembers Web, and he casts it and shoots the web out, and it covers the troll, and it sticks to the walls of the place, right? Gets them all bound up. Great. Excellent. Now we can take our time and just, nope. Touchberry has decided that it would be more fun to set it on fire. So, being the one who had the lantern in his hand when he came in, he uses it to light the web. Now, if you know the web spell from BECMI, when it's on fire, creatures caught in the web will take fire damage, but then the web will be gone, right? It burns the web up. The creature inside takes some fire damage, but it doesn't end up doing enough damage to kill the troll. So now he's back, and he attacks again. Bob Johnny says, "Stop it, Touchberry," and casts another web, because remember, he has one as well. He casts web on the thing and catches it. And what does Touchberry do? He lights it on fire again. This is what I mean about Touchberry sort of becoming a bit of a rude belligerent character, utterly out of character with, hobbits as described in Lord of the Rings. I mean, like, so not a hobbit. But, this is our world, not Tolkien's, although I, do steal liberally from him. Anyway, so he lights the web on fire. Okay, once was funny, and I allowed the web to sort of burn up because the web would burn at a lower temperature. I allowed it to burn up without doing any damage to the building. This time, I'm sorry, you've done it twice. As the web burns and does a little bit of fire damage to the troll, it catches the roof on fire, the thatched roof. And now that begins to smolder over their heads. They still have to battle this troll, right? They fight it down using just their weapons, and the axe is no longer charged. Like, it's been long enough now that the fire is out and it won't come back. Bob Johnny does try on one of his attacks. He tries to say Brosingus again, and it doesn't light up. So, okay, now we know it's only once a day. Great. So they fight it with just, their weapons, and they kill it. And I think Bob Johnny still actually had a magic missile left. And so, anyway, they kill the thing. Now what are we going to do with it? Right? Like, currently there's a few wisps of smoke up at the top, but they're not really noticing it happening. They're not seeing it. How are we going to get rid of him? Because he's just going to come back. They drag him outside. If only they'd known. They drag him outside into the farmyard and say, okay, let's throw oil on him and burn him. We don't have any oil. Fleetwood had used one of his flasks in the lantern, which has now been used to light the webs on fire twice and is pretty much out of oil. He'd thrown one on the other troll, and Fofire had thrown both of hers. The other two don't have any oil. We don't have any oil to throw. What do we do? So Touchberry goes running back into the village. He says, I'll be right back, and he hoofs it. Now, like, why you send the guy with the shortest legs, I don't know, but it was his idea. So off he runs back into the village, and he goes back to the house of the woman they had asked directions from and pounds on the door, and she comes out, what is it, what is it, what is it? Did you find the thing? Is Robert safe? Did you find Robert? No, troll, need oil. What, you troll need oil? What do you need to troll need oil? Give me oil, do you have any flasks of oil? Well, yeah, I got flasks of oil, I go into Kilmarnock most months and I bought my oil. I always make sure I have some oil. Just give me oil! So, she gives him oil, and he also asks her if she has, if she's got a fire going, if he can have a stick from the fire that's got some fire on it. So she gets him something like that. This is taking time, meanwhile. Back at the farm, the troll is starting to stir. Every time he's getting up, they all attack. Bam, 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 knock him back down. And then they wait. And he begins to rise up and they attack him back down. Like, we can't keep doing this. Finally, Touchberry returns, douses him with oil, lights it on fire, and the troll dies a horrible, painful, well-deserved death. By the time this happens, however, flames begin to appear through the thatch roof of the house. In fact, the interior has been fully involved for some time, but they've been so focused on the troll that they're not noticing. And now, finally, through the thatch, the fire has burned through and it starts to appear, and smoke begins to bellow out of it. And they all just sort of stand and watch. Oh dear. Well, there goes the farmhouse, right? It's toast. There's no firefighting, there's no fire trucks, there's no fire brigade. A bucket brigade from the well isn't going to touch this thing, right? It's had a lot of time to build up speed, and it's gone. Oh well. So they watch it burn out, and they do, the villagers come over to see what's going on, and they do form a bucket brigade just to keep it from spreading. But, it's toast. So they sift through the rubble of it, and there's really nothing worth saving. Everything's pretty well gone. All right, well, let's check out the barn. Let's see where those trolls were up top. Let's see if there's, any remains of Robert there. And, yeah, they find Robert, or what's left of him. Then they put him into a bag to take back to his family to bury. They also find a good deal of treasure. Now, some of it was probably Robert's. Some of it was probably something the trolls have stolen from somebody else. They decided to kind of make this their home for a while, like they do. They kill someone, steal their home until they're driven off or they run out of food or whatever. Well, they've been eating pigs, and Robert. At any rate, they gather up the treasure. It amounts to almost 3,000 in gold and some platinum and silver. and a good deal of jewelry as well. Things that the trolls have been, lugging around in dirty old sacks and things like that. So they've got this. They put that into their own sacks too, remembering that Robert's family is in Kilmarnock, and some of this could be his. They decide they're going to camp there. They actually use the barn because, the house is not usable anymore. They camp out in the barn, and the next day they head off back to Kilmarnock. Once back in the city, they go to Marnock's Kill, to the church there, and they report to Zeno what had happened. And they ask, do we know where Robert's family is? And Zeno says, yes, we know them well, we will handle the remains and see that Robert is given a proper burial. Now they talk among themselves, and they agree. Give the treasure to Robert's family. Which I thought was very big of them. I thought it was a lovely thing to do. They don't know what of it was Robert's and what wasn't. His treasure may still have been in that box in his bedroom, although likely the trolls would have seen that and taken anything out of it that was worth anything. So probably it was empty. But they don't know how much of it is Robert's and how much of it isn't. But they said, we burned his house down and they've lost their father, so, give them the treasure. Zeno thanks them for that and says he will mention their good work and their generosity to the Count of Kilmarnock. Always good to have friends in high places. It is getting on in the day, so they spend a little time in Kilmarnock going shopping. Touchberry buys a flamboyantly expensive silk shirt, a purple silk shirt to wear over his armor. I don't know why he did that, but he did, and some bottles of wine. The others get their gear repaired. I charge them a couple gold pieces to fix armor and that kind of stuff because wear and tear, right? So they get that kind of stuff done. They replenish their oil supply, and they actually all now carry flasks of oil, just in case. And they're pretty much prepared. I ask, do you want to head back up to Honeywood? The boat isn't here anymore. It has gone. You guys, your mission down here took too long, so the boat's back up north again. But it will come back eventually, and you can catch a ride back up to Honeywood. No, they don't. While they're in the leather tankard, they meet a group of halflings. 4 halflings who'd come down from the Shire on business, and trade goes between the places all the time. And Touchberry started talking to them and now wants to go up to the Shire. We had a bit of role play, like, oh, which town are you from? Oh, where's your family? Is your family that out? That kind of stuff. And so now Touchberry is interested in seeing the Shire. He wants to go and see where his character came from. Okay, so they don't go to Honeywood. They're going to have a journey over to the Shire. So we're going to take a bit of a side quest so that Touchberry can visit home. And it'll be a lovely, comfortable, sort of role-playing family reunion. Or not.